Most backpacking trips don't fail on day one, they unravel on day two. And the reason almost no one warns you about will make sense once you've lived it. So day one of a backpacking trip usually feels easy, but day two wrecks people. That's when sore legs, bad planning, and drained morale ruin most trips. Most hikers just try to push through, but that only makes it worse. After over 10 years hiking in the Rockies, the Sierras, and the Mojave, I've seen the same 5 mistakes ruin good trips, and I'll show you how to avoid every one of them. And if you want more real-world tips like this, plus planning tools that I built from over 300 backcountry nights, I put out videos every week, so if that sounds useful, consider subscribing. All right, number 1, picking a trail that was just too ambitious. This is probably the most common reason why most people accidentally tank their trip, and it makes total sense why. Because when you're planning that trip at home, looking at routes and mileage with fresh legs and a full belly, it all feels doable. 10 miles a day? I could do that. A few thousand feet of elevation gain? Well, I've done steeper hikes than that before. I can handle it. But here's what I've learned, usually the hard way. Trail stats only tell you half the story. If you don't plan around how your body handles effort over time, you're not planning for the trail. You might be planning for how you wish the trail feels. Early on, I kept picking routes that looked reasonable, but by mid-day 2, I'd be running on fumes, skipping those side trails I was excited about, and questioning if I even liked backpacking. What eventually helped was shifting my planning approach. Instead of just plugging in a mileage goal, I started designing my days around total elevation gain. And not just net gain, I mean cumulative climbing throughout the entire trip. 10 miles of smooth, packed dirt is wildly different than 10 miles of chunky, washed out rock or deep sand. So now, if I'm unfamiliar with an area, I don't just look at the route, I'll dig into recent trip reports to find phrases like overgrown single track, or not maintained, or rocky and slow. That's where the hidden friction lives. Bottom line, it's not that you can't do a big route, it's just that overcommitting early can push you into just grinding it out instead of enjoying the trip. But that's nothing compared to mistake number 2, the one that wrecks you before you even realize you've made it. Going too hard on day 1. Now, this one's sneaky because it doesn't feel like a mistake while you're doing it. You start early on day 1, your spirits are high, your pack's loaded and full of snacks, and you've been looking forward to this trip for weeks. And somewhere around hour 3 or 4, you think, hey, I'm actually making great time. Maybe I'll push to that next site, bank a few extra miles, or I could totally bag that little peak over there before I continue on the main trail. It feels harmless in the moment, but that extra effort quickly stacks up and you don't realize the cost until the next day. And if you combine that with elevation gain or altitude, the fatigue stacks up faster than you think. Because climbing up at 8,000 feet with a full pack isn't just harder, it changes how your body processes fuel and recovers overnight. So if you blow all your energy on day 1, you're not gonna reset back to 0 the next morning. You're gonna wake up a little bit behind. So what's the fix? For me, it was shifting my mindset on that first day. Now, I treat day 1 like a gradual ramp up, not a sprint. I keep my effort at around 60 to 70%. I go slower on big climbs, and even if I could push further, I sometimes don't. I'll stop when my body's still got some gas in the tank and not when it gets to empty. Because the real goal isn't to crush day 1, it's to wake up on day 2 still stoked to hike. And that's what gets you through the trip without entering into that ugh, I'm already wrecked spiral that leads to campsite shortcuts, snack rationing, and eventually kind of resenting your own itinerary. And if you think it's just about hiking too hard on day 1, mistake number 3 proves that the trail itself can betray you. All right, underestimating trail conditions. This one burned me more times than I want to admit because I thought I was doing the research. I'd check the route on Gaia GPS, glance at a few comments on all trails, maybe even scan the elevation profile. Everything would look fine until I get out there and hit overgrown bushwhacking, creek crossings that weren't supposed to be there, maybe even snowfields in the fall or the spring. And by day 2, I'd be paying for it. Feet soaked, pace slower than planned, showing up at camp an hour later than I expected, and that's when the mental fatigue can really kick in. Not the, I'm kinda tired, but this isn't really the trip I was expecting kinda tired. Because the map data doesn't show the trail quality. It doesn't tell you that a moderate 8-mile stretch feels like 12 miles because it's washed out or steep or constantly rerouting around blowdowns. So now, before I commit to any trip, especially in a new area, I read the actual hiker reports from the last 2 weeks. That's the info that changes how you prep or if you even choose that route. Now, the goal isn't to avoid challenges, but it's knowing exactly what you're walking into because nothing kills day 2 morale faster than realizing your whole plan was built on outdated or sketchy information. And if this kind of last-minute trail chaos sounds familiar, I made something to deal with it. The 3-day backpacking trip planner kit. It's the tool I use to check routes, elevation, campsites, water, and conditions all in one place. Links below if you want to check it out. All right, number 4, not scouting your water sources ahead of time. So I used to assume that if a stream or a river was shown on the map, that it would be flowing and I could count on it. Spoiler, that's a great way to spend the day dehydrated, cranky, and making bad decisions. Because water's one of those things that beginners think they plan for because they see a source marked on the map. But unless you're hiking in the wet season or in a zone that you know well, assuming that a water source is always available is risky. And on a short trip, even one bad water call can throw off your whole plan. I've had it happen myself. Push through a long, dry stretch, expecting a refill, only to find a trickle or nothing. So now you're doing mental math on rationing your last bit of water or doing several unplanned miles to another water source. Not fun and easy to prevent with a little prep. So here's the move. Before any trip, I check recent trip reports for water flow status. And I try to prioritize reliable perennial sources. And I'll call the ranger station if there is one and ask them about current water sources. Once I started doing that consistently, now when I hit the trail, I'm not guessing about where the next drink is coming from. That stress is gone before I even take the first step. All right, and number 5, expecting the trail to be fun all the time. Now, nobody says this out loud, but most of us believe it, especially early on. You plan a trip, watch some stoke-heavy YouTube videos, visualize epic views, perfect campsite, maybe a lakeside coffee moment, and then by day 2, you're halfway through a buggy uphill grind, your shoulders are killing you, and you've got 4 more miles until camp. Suddenly, the whole trip feels like maybe a bad decision. And not because backpacking isn't awesome, but because you expected to love every part of it. And when the discomfort shows up, and it always does in some way, it feels like something went wrong. And if you're not expecting that, it can feel like the trip is starting to go sideways for no reason. What helped was learning to expect that. I figure 20 to 30% of any trip will be type 2 fun. The kind that's kind of miserable while it's happening and not Instagram worthy, but still part of the overall adventure. And weirdly, once you accept that, it gets easier. You stop resisting the effort and start noticing the stuff that makes it all worth it. The quiet at camp, the sunrise after a storm, the second snack that somehow feels gourmet. And here's the thing that nobody tells you. Yes, backpacking does get easier. You pack smarter, your pace gets better, and you stop making mistakes that used to snowball. But it never becomes truly easy. The miles will still wear you down. What changes is you. By day 2, you're no longer blindsided, you're just moving through the miles, and that's what makes the trip smoother. And if you want more ways to make your trips feel smooth, this next video outlines 5 comfort items that totally upgraded the quality of my trips. So hope this helps you plan your next trip a bit easier. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you out there.